estudiantes, pero de años pasados.
¿Listo? ¿Qué quieres que te vaya ayudando?
Voy a dejarlo al país.
Vámonos para acá, vamos a esto, lo dejamos. Hay que quitarlo. Poner agua ahí. Ya te cambiamos los cambios.
Hola.
William, hazme el favor y tú acércate acá al Salón del Rey, por favor.
Esa es nueva.
Bueno, ponle eso.
Hola, hola.
Sí, 12 y 13.
Hola, hola. Water. This is my water.
¿Te tiras la mano?
Sabes que yo como voy a hacer la traducción de las preguntas. Meto un esfero.
¿Lo vas a tener en la mano o te lo dejas?
Ahí está bien, ahí está bien.
Switch my glasses now.
So Harvey, people can ask questions in Spanish. I can translate for you unless you want to use those things, the simultaneous translation.
Which is easier for you?
I could do either. We could do either.
Well, I prefer the translation.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get you
If
one.
it's not too much trouble for you.
No, not at all, not at all. Denise, una traducción simultánea para Harvey.
So everything okay?
Everything is
So
great.
Ben,
Yes. That was a nice dinner last night. Yeah.
Do you know the names of Carlos's and Patricia's sons?
Of the song.
Maurizio is one of them, and the other one who just made a film.
The young one. The young one.
The younger one, Maurizio.
Not, I have to
Yeah.
find out for you.
There was one that
That
I
just
know
made
has a
film.
master's degree in IT technology. You know, and then there was another son there.
There's
Was
three
wearing the
photos.
yeah. One of them, the oldest, was not there.
Actually, the one that had the long thing,
Yes, the
he's
one.
the oldest.
Oh, he's the oldest. That's
He's the
right.
one who's going to take over the family.
Okay, so is he the one that did the film?
The one that did the film is the little one. The youngest
Maurizio.
one.
Okay, that's
Yes,
Maurizio.
yes.
And it's the one in blue. His name I forgot.
Yeah, you know what? I actually know. I've met him many times.
Okay, we find out
The names, yeah.
Buenas. You were the actress from no. Okay. No, she looks like that girl from the party. That young actress was the only person in my life that ever approached me, asked me about a woman, dead now, she's died of an overdose of heroin, who wrote the Bad Lieutenant. Well, she wrote part of it anyway, the nun's part, and she comes up and says, she's talking to me about Zoe Malone. No one's ever said that. When he made that movie, 30 years ago. So I was very taken that she spotted this woman was brilliant, Zoe Malone. It's a tragedy that she died from drugs.
Let me see. Daira, Nasli, ¿cómo se usa? Pero, él no se la va, no la va a estar usando todo el tiempo, sí, pero sí mucho, yo creo.
What is that? It's a DVD. I mean,
no,
So Harvey, we talked so much last night. I'm gonna let them do it.
Yes, that's fine.
But is there anything you want to ask me that you maybe want to say about? I think I'm asking about like the future.
I tell you what, you use your own judgment about it. You're a smart gal and you're great at and you've been great at everything. At the festival, they will supply a lot, and then you fill in what you think interests you. You might interest them that they're not asking. Some people might be embarrassed, but they're journalists. They'll probably be bold. But maybe this one will be.
Nasli, ¿podemos ir empezando? ¿Sí? Hola, hola. Nasli, ¿podemos ir empezando? Bueno, por favor, silencio, que vamos a empezar. Yo creo que podemos empezar con un gran aplauso. Estamos dichosos y honradísimos con Harvey Keitel.
Buenas, buenas. Buenas. Buenas.
Ahora sí. No, no, está funcionando, ya está funcionando. Sí. Bueno, la verdad es que no sé cuánta gente aquí presente estuvo anoche en el tributo que le hicimos a Harvey Keitel. Tuvimos una conversación extensa, nosotros dos, sobre su cine, pero hoy la palabra se las voy a dejar a ustedes. No tenemos tanto tiempo, así que comencemos con las preguntas. Y por favor levanten la mano, porque las vamos a hacer a través de un micrófono. Sí, por favor.
Hello, Mr. Keitel. Thank you for being here. I have a question regarding, I'm going to do the question in English. I have a question regarding the movie, a scene in the movie Bad Lieutenant. There's this scene where basically you shoot heroin on a kitchen, if I remember well. Can you tell us a bit more about that scene? How did you prepare for that? What were the directions? What happened when that was taking place? Thank you. La pregunta se refiere a la película Bad Lieutenant, el teniente malo. Hay una escena en la que Harvey Keitel se inyecta heroína en una cocina y la pregunta es que nos cuente cómo fueron las direcciones, cómo se preparó para ese momento.
Well, that woman, there was a young woman, her name was Zoe Lund, that's the person in that scene, who was in that scene. Did you know her? Do you know who she is? No. Well, she was the young woman who wrote the what there was of the screenplay of Abel Ferrara's idea. And she and Abel were working together, and she wrote what there was of the screenplay, and she wrote particularly the nun's part in a brilliant way. She was an extraordinary young lady. I don't know how old she was at the time of the Bad Lieutenant, but she did a film called Miss 45 that Abel Ferrara directed. Extraordinary piece of work. And she's one of the brightest people I've ever met in my life, and an artist of some kind of other thing. Very unique gal.
Unfortunately, she was a heroin addict. And so she was the lady in that scene that gave me the injection. I wanted her to do it, but we had a nurse standing by to make sure the injection was done in the proper way, and not that she didn't know how to do an injection, unfortunately, but a nurse stood by to make sure everything was safe, and it was a solution, a saline solution that was done. Just because the nature of the film, Abel Ferrara is an extraordinary director, as you know, and we wanted the film to be as raw as we could make it, because the subject was raw, and we didn't want to have any cuts away to just the arm. We wanted it to be as real as we could make it, and as ugly in a sense as we can make it, to get the point across on the choices we have about doing drugs or not doing drugs. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Sí, buenas. Maestro, mi pregunta sería con relación a su relación.
Espera un segundito, por favor.
Sí. Maestro, la pregunta mía sería con relación a cómo es eso de actuar bajo la dirección de Quentin Tarantino. ¿Cómo es ese trato que da este director y cómo se logra sacar eso de lo mejor de cada actor, ante todo, por ejemplo, cuando el señor Lobo, que es un papel realmente mágico, increíble, y bueno, en las otras películas que también ha sucedido, como esta de la mujer esta de color, y las otras películas, cómo es ese trato, y con un director que en parte también mucho más joven, y cómo se saca esas actuaciones.
Well, I didn't understand it all because this was, that is too loud, this is too low. Yeah. This has to be low. Yeah, but first let me say, yes, I'm going to need you to translate the question, but one part I did catch. You said working with a younger director, Quentin Tarantino. Now, I realize something old is present here, but also it's not me. Okay. Okay. Well, Quentin Tarantino is an unusual talent. You know, you all know his work. I don't know what more I could say about it. I'm fond of saying that the work speaks for the people involved. You know, to really know somebody and speak about them, you have to spend time. I will say this, because I like to say it. Quentin's script, the first script, Reservoir Dogs, was given to me by a woman, a colleague of mine from the Actors Studio. Very good actress, called me one day and said, I read a screenplay I think you're going to like. And it was Reservoir Dogs. And I was stunned by it. I was just stunned by it. It was an extraordinary experience to read it. It was directed on the page. You could see exactly what the movie was going to be. Whether or not he could execute what he wrote, that remained to be seen. And he did execute what he wrote. He's just one of these unusual talents that comes along, you know. He's awkward, he's funny, smart, profound, great for actors.
Yeah, you were one of the first people to believe in Tarantino because you also executive produced that film, Reservoir Dogs.
I was a co-producer, not the
main producer.
Executive producer. Well, like I say, the writing was extraordinary, and I wanted to make the movie. That's the point. As soon as I read it, I wanted to make it. Then we had to set about getting the money, which was a very, very difficult task. No one knew Quentin. He worked in a video store. You probably know this about him. And he had never directed a frame of film in his life. So who the hell's going to finance that? You know? And I don't want to say anything nasty, but to ask people to read a script sometimes isn't always the best thing you could do for yourself. You know, not everyone can read a script. Financial people, we want to come closer to financial people because we need them as they need us. But there has to be a greater communication between us and them. I mean, we who do the work, we who write it and direct it and act it, we have to come closer to the people who finance these projects. And they aren't from the same place that we are from. You know, their upbringing, their journeys have been different than the artist for the most part. So you have to convince them in some way, and that's not an easy task for any of you who are who want to be directors, actors, writers, you know. It's a tough fight, and it's a very worthwhile fight, so don't ever give up. Lie, cheat, steal, do whatever you have to do to get your movie done or play done. I say that because I lied a lot. No, I never cheated.
I have two questions for you. For you, what is the difference of work with directors from 17th, 18th, and contemporary directors? And the other, what do you think
Perdón,
about?
¿repites la pregunta?
What is the difference for work to directors from films on 17 years, 17 years, or 18 years? The difference.
¿Por qué no preguntas en español?
sorry,
La diferencia de trabajar con directores entre los 70 y 80, que los que ha trabajado, y la diferencia pues con trabajar con los directores de ahora. Y la otra pregunta sería, ¿qué piensas sobre la cinematografía colombiana?
Por favor, apagamos los celulares.
Well, I'm not a cultural historian. I know there's a difference between the 70s, 80s, 90s, and now we're in 2013. The times are different. It's really not my place to speak about the times, the social scene. You all know it much better than I can speak about it. I don't want to waste your time. Making films, my perception is it's gotten a little more difficult. The films have gotten a little more commercial. There are still your great films, your handful of great films from all over the world. From all over the world, it gets more difficult to see your films and get your films made because Hollywood rules the roost, you know. Hollywood is its own particular animal, let me say. And the trend seems to me towards lighter fare at this time when the world is ablaze. So it's a strange dichotomy there, except then you get films like Lincoln and some of the extraordinary films that have been made, but they're a handful. We need more involvement in the times, in the arts. The arts need to be involved more. The theater and theater of the cinema. We can't leave it to politicians. We can't leave it to money. We, the people, have to stay involved. Keep an eye on what's going on. We can't duck our heads into the sand like an ostrich and hide from the wars that are going on, the economic hardships that are going on.
Señor Keitel, quisiera conocer su opinión tomando en cuenta las diferencias de la puesta en escena.
¿Esa es la pregunta?
Sí, no, tomando en cuenta las diferencias entre la puesta en escena teatral y cinematográfica, quisiera conocer su opinión acerca de ensayar previo a los rodajes.
Well, rehearsal is a necessary thing to do, whether it's theater or film. First of all, your actors and director, writer, need to get to know each other, need to get to know the characters well. The characters have to get to know each other. And then, the question of money is involved also. The better rehearsed you are, the less money it will cost you when you start to shoot. So you want to be well rehearsed. Also, to be well rehearsed means you'll have freedom to experience the role. You won't be struggling to remember the lines or where you have to walk and what you have to do. That will be down like solid.
Muy buenos días, señor Keitel.
Just something you might not know. When Quentin and I came together on Reservoir Dogs, so I was asking for 2 weeks rehearsal. Now Hollywood doesn't often give you much rehearsal, you know, but we got a week's rehearsal. I mean, for first-time director who never directed anything, usually they give you, very little time. So we did rehearse for 2 weeks. I'm sorry, I wanted to get 4 weeks because I saw it as a play also, the possibility of us doing a play out of it. I think maybe somebody did, I'm not sure though. So rehearsal is a very important element. Don't forget about it, you filmmakers and you actors. The more you suffer in rehearsals, the more joy you're going to have when the curtain goes up.
Mr. Keitel, muy buenas tardes. Es un placer tenerlo aquí en esta conferencia. Represento a la UN Radio, la Universidad Nacional de Colombia. Hay muchas cosas que quisiera preguntarle y solo se me ocurre ahorita preguntarle o saber, cuando usted era tan joven, cuando hizo Who's Knocking at My Door, ¿por qué hicieron una escena tan contracultural como Watusi y qué se siente ser un Watusi?
I wouldn't know what it feels like to be Watusi. I'm a kid from Brooklyn. Well, I mean, I don't know what to answer about the question that you asked, except to say that Scorsese was at his best when he began, and for many, many years, and continues to be at his best. Seems to be growing all the time. So, when I first met Marty, and when he was doing his student film at NYU, and we were shooting on weekends. I was working, selling shoes, and Marty was a film student. And one day he said, do you want to come in and watch some of the dailies? I put together a scene. And so I came in to watch the first scene of Marty's first film, 35 millimeter film. He was, by the way, I think the first one in America to make a 35 millimeter film. The first student. Either he was the first or the second. There might have been one in California, but I think Marty might have been the first. And I sat down, and up goes the lights go down, and up comes the church scene from Who's That Knocking at My Door? I don't know how many of you have seen that film, but there's a church scene where the character is in church, and he's struggling to find a way to redeem himself for his sins. And for the first time, I'm seeing Marty as a director now. And all of a sudden, these images go up, these close-ups on the figures in the church, the candle, the objects, and all of a sudden a song comes blaring over the images of the song, Who's That Knocking at My Door All Night Long, and the day before, something like that. Bam, 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 bang, bang, bang. I don't know what's going on. Something like that. And this is taking place over this church scene, this very religious scene. So I said to myself, I just met an extraordinary talent. Okay.
Buenos días. Quisiera preguntar, ya que tú apoyaste a Quentin Tarantino tan joven, ¿qué importancia le ves tú apoyar a esta nueva generación de cineastas en sus guiones, en sus realizaciones y en la parte económica para que pueda desarrollarse un cine mucho más pensado y no tan comercial?
Well, that's sort of a difficult question to answer because no, what we do reflects the culture. How we take care of ourselves, how we take care of the poor, the needy, those who can't help themselves or defend themselves. Our culture is reflected in what we do. So how to thwart off the commerciality of film and have everything perfect like Shangri-La, that's not going to happen. But to be better people, I think that can happen. And that will happen through the arts and through us getting together and discussing our work and bringing more people into the theater. I have to applaud President Santos. I think he demonstrated powerful leadership when he came to open a film festival. I wish President Obama would come to open a film festival. I've never seen it done before. The way he spoke so profoundly about what theater has to offer. I haven't heard that or read about that since I read the early Greek writings about how theater formed. It formed because the people felt the need to discuss the problems they were having and to try to find solutions to the problems of the people of the state. And they decided to put up shows. You know, first they danced, then they offered words to it, and it became a play. So your president wisely recognizes the value of theater and how the people of Colombia desire a theater. And he came, he spoke, he brought people from the military there as well, which I was very glad to see. I'm a former American Marine. I served 3 years in the Marines. I know something about the military mind because I was a Marine for 3 years. And I know how important theater, your work, your stories, your hardships, and your solutions, your imagination, like the president knows the value of it, and he invited the military to come. So, I'm not sure what the period should be, but there's one.
Buenas tardes. Señor Keitel, bienvenido a su nueva
Yes. Too much static. Go ahead. There's too much static there. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yo traduzco.
Bienvenido a su nueva casa, Colombia. Y quería preguntarle algo más sencillo, pero creo que profundo, porque vi su sensibilidad ahorita cuando recordó algo. Y es preguntarle qué es lo que le hace más feliz en la vida y qué le entristece. ¿Y cuál sería su película favorita? Un regalo de origami para usted.
Oh, it's a Japanese origami, right? Origami, yes. Gracias. Well, it makes me very happy to receive this right now. And this is going to help me fly away and soar up into the heavens. I like this Buddhist thought that the journey is the goal. Whatever happens on the journey is the goal. So whatever obstacles one encounters, being born, separating from home, a difficult thing to do, going on the journey and surviving that journey, hoping that you live through it. Others that you are with live through it, because some won't. Some will suffer more than others. And whoever gets to finish this journey or really experience this journey gets to come back home and tell others about it. That's what we're doing. We've lived. We're still alive here. Knock wood. So all that makes me happy. I've learned not to push away what's difficult and not to attach to pleasure only. I now see pleasure in them both. I love the Three Stooges. The sound of music. Teo Angelopoulos' work. A lot of things. Okay.
Usted es un actor muy serio y muy respetado precisamente por el gran criterio que tiene para elegir sus papeles.
Can you say again?
Ok. Usted es un actor muy respetado por el gran criterio que tiene para elegir sus papeles. Quisiera saber cómo decide la elección de sus papeles en las películas, cómo elige qué papel interpretar y cuál no, y teniendo tan buenos papeles, ¿cuál es su papel preferido de los que ha interpretado hasta el momento?
Well, putting aside those films you have to do sometimes to make money, you know, you certainly rather make your money in some other way, but you can't always have what you want, you know. But I've been very lucky to work with some of the great directors around the world. I'm looking forward to the Colombian director I'll work with one day. But it's true, I've been very lucky. I work with many directors in around the globe. And, you know, I don't know how you choose something like some of the films you know that I've done. You get lucky and you get to meet the people who wrote them. Someone says, here, read this, and you read it. Whether it's a poem, a screenplay, a play, a piece of art, whatever it is. And you say, my gosh, I'm lucky to be here, to hear this, to look at this, to read this, to act in this, to dance this, to play the music of that. So it's just a process of living, really. There's no one clear answer to it. I know values come into it somewhere, though. In some way, values do come into it. You know, we can't be totally superficial and expect to find something, and expect to have quality in our lives and really enjoy life to the fullest and live it in a fluid way. Our goals, our ambition is going to have to relate somehow to each other. And being able to tolerate each other and the differences in each other. I'm still trying. You would ask me to get into trouble if I answered that because I really don't have an answer. I've been too lucky and very grateful for the wonderful people I've worked with. With what? I can't write that. Well, I really can't answer that, except I will say that because we spoke about Zoe Lund early on. Someone asked me about her, and I fell in love with her talent, you know, and to experience her talent, the talent of this beautiful, incredible lady, and the tragedy that she went through. I'm lucky to have experienced all that, all the love of that and all the sadness of that.
Muy buenos días. Siempre se le pregunta por Martin Scorsese, por Quentin Tarantino, pero yo en realidad quiero abordar cómo fue la experiencia con una mujer muy talentosa, como es el caso de Jane Campion, con quien tuviste la oportunidad de hacer el piano y es una película con unas motivaciones muy profundas, con una pasión muy comunicativa, y quisiera saber cómo fue trabajar precisamente con una mujer tan talentosa, el relato desde la óptica femenina, cómo fue precisamente esa experiencia, cómo abordó Jane Campion esa película tan maravillosa precisamente que fue El piano.
Well, I'm sorry. You're okay. Well, I might tell this story in a roundabout way. I'll try to be brief. I think this is the best way for me to answer this question. First of all, when I first met Jane, it was at dinner. She was sitting over here. Her producer was over here. I was over here. It was in California. I was shooting a different film. And we met one night to see, she was meeting actors on the East Coast and West Coast. And we sat down and started to have the meeting, and I really wanted that part. But everybody did who read a script wanted the parts. And so at one point in the conversation, I saw a movement come from that side of the table. And I thought that Jane Campion had touched her producer's leg in a way to say, let's get out of here. At least that's the way I took it. That's the way I saw it. So I said, did you just touch her leg? And she said, no. I said, no, I saw you do it. Don't tell me that you didn't. That you want to leave, don't you? She said, no. I said, okay, all right, okay. And we got up and left. And so I cursed her out a lot when I got back to my house, and all that week, using every expletive you could think of. And about a week later, she called me and said, the part is yours. And I was really surprised. I said, well, did you touch her leg on the table or not? She said, no, I didn't. But I wanted her to say she wanted me for the part then. I didn't want her to get up and leave without giving me the part. I said, well, you certainly took your time. And how did you finally decide that? I was still angry at her. She said, I knew you had the part when I auditioned one of the last actors I saw, and I called him Harvey. So that was our first meeting. But the real story I wanted to say, I will be brief. In Cannes, when the movie was in Cannes, and I believe it won the Best Picture in Cannes that year, and we did the round table interviews with the press, and I came to one of the last tables. There were a lot of powerful American journalists at this table, like the New York Times and the Washington Post and Washington Times, and Holly Hunter was there, and the other people in the cast. I came to this table, and so the first question the person asks is, how did it feel to play your first romantic role in a movie? To play your first romantic role. These are distance glasses, so I have to use them. And I paused. I didn't like his question. And I said, it's not the first time I played a romantic role. And they all looked at each other, because I had not in the movie. They all looked at each other, and he said, where? When? We haven't seen you in any romantic role. I said, in acting class. So, and that was the truth. I just had never had the opportunity to play a role like that until Jane Campion came along, you know, and she was the one who saw me playing that role. And again, I was very lucky, because actors are trained to play every role in class, you know. That's where you play all the roles and take all the risks that you're going to have to perform later on. At least you hope to get that chance. I got the chance.
Hi, Mr. Keitel. I'm a film student from Nicaragua. She's Sara from Portugal. We come from the International Film and TV School in San Antonio de los Baños, Cuba. And we would like to invite you to go there and whenever you want. Some of your colleagues have been there, and
They've always said that it's the most wonderful place, to learn filmmaking. And we've actually have...
What have you been waiting for?
For you, actually. And it's an honor to be able to invite you there, and we can share with you some of the material we've done in the school. The school knew you were going to be here, and they gave it to us.
One of my favorite things is to speak to students of the theater and cinema, so you don't have to tell me anything beyond that.
All right.
Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't hurt to be in a beautiful city like Cartagena.
Can we share this with you? Podemos compartirle a usted.
What do you want to do? Sorry.
Share with you some of our short films. And
You want to share?
our short films, it's a DVD with some of our works, and we were wondering if we could share it. Okay.
You want to show me a film?
No, not show it to you right now. Share with you the material, the DVD.
Oh, sure.
Oh, thank you. And it's an honor to speak to you, sir. And thank you.
Is there a question?
Yeah, actually, is there a specific... En español, perdón. ¿Hay algún tema o género que le atraería lo suficiente como para hacer una película, para actuar en una película con un director centroamericano, hecha en Centroamérica?
Why would I not be interested? Do you have an answer?
Buenos días, Mr. Keitel. Buenos días, Mr. Keitel, ¿cómo está? Es un placer tenerlo acá. Quería preguntarle pues acerca de su trabajo con Teo Angelopoulos en La mirada de Ulises. Digamos que esta película es no es solo es un viaje personal para usted, sino también es un viaje a través de la cinematografía griega y a través de la historia de los Balcanes. Entonces quería preguntarle cómo fue su preparación para ese personaje y cuál fue su viaje personal como Harvey Keitel dentro del rodaje y dentro del trabajo con Teo Angelopoulos.
Teo Angelopoulos, I hope you all know him, and if you don't, you should know him, because this man was Homeric in the size of his talent. He was a Greek director, for those of you who don't know. He unfortunately died in a motorcycle accident last year. He got hit by one while he was making a film, which he had asked me to do, and I keep thinking maybe if I had done the film, he wouldn't have hit that motorcycle. It would have hit him at that time. So the world lost a great talent. You prepare for a role like that in acting class. You prepare for a role like that on the streets of Brooklyn and New York, and wherever you might go in your life on your own journey. You prepare for a journey like that by having experience. Poetry, films, theater, art, neighbors, Marines. That's the way you prepare for a role like that. But Teo Angelopoulos was really a very sad at his loss, but what a talent. And there was a joke about him. By the way, most films he did always wound up in Cannes, And also, most people never see his films. He won the award in Cannes a few times. Our film, as a matter of fact, received some prize there. I forget. It wasn't the Palme d'Or, it was the next prize. But people didn't see his movies because people said they were too long. But yet, you ask any director to name 5 of the greats, he will be on one of the fingers. There was a joke about Teo, that his films were too long. They used to joke about him in Greece, saying, you could be watching his movie, a scene comes up, you're watching the scene, it begins, you watch a bit of it, you go out to buy some popcorn and a soda, you come back, and the same scene is still on. Maybe that's why a lot of people didn't see his movies, but he was a great talent, and I'm really lucky to have met him.
¿Y cuál fue su viaje personal como Harvey Keitel durante el rodaje de la película?
We traveled all around the Balkans to make that film, and it was the journey of my life, and it remains that, the journey of my life. That particular journey we made by foot, by car, by plane, by every kind of weather you can imagine. In the dead of winter in the Balkans, it gets very cold. We were just all over, every country in the Balkans you could name. We tried to get into Sarajevo at that time. We couldn't get a flight in because the war was on. We went to Skopje, someplace to fly in. We were in every climate, every situation you could imagine. People with AK-47s, you know, telling you to move on in Mostar, was it? Okay. Because the war had been going on between the Serbs and the Croatians and the Muslims as well. I can't remember the name of the city now, but and the Germans were there to keep peace, and you know, they'd be firing across the lines. You had to keep off the side of the road because of mines. You had to stay on the side. It was a great journey, and by the way, I might say, I don't know how to say it. I encourage you all to become Teo Angelopoulos, to see his films, his work, because you will love it. I'm sure you find it very fulfilling for yourselves to see what can happen in cinema. Not that you have not, but he's one of those people, you see his films, and it's like reading Homer. And who would not want to be Homer? Okay.
I just want to briefly say, quiero decirles que la mirada de Ulises Gaze, la vamos a presentar hoy, sábado a las 7:30 de la noche en Cine Colombia, en las salas del Caribe Plaza, para que no se la pierdan. Solo tenemos una función.
Buenos días, acá.
Let me add just one more thing about that. I'm speaking about this great man. He was ferocious. He was ferocious. He was, you know, we almost came to blows a few times, real blows, you know, but we wound up becoming, you know, like lovers after a quarrel. So, I'm sorry. He was once, well, one of the stories I like about him is that he was once in jail when he was in the army in Greece. I said, what happened? That he got thrown into the brig, we call it in the States. He said, well, he was an enlisted man, a private or something, you know, and one day an officer said something he didn't like. Something like, your mother's a whore. And he punched him. I said, that's an honorable way to go to jail.
Okay. Bueno, muy buenos días. Mi pregunta, voy a remontarme otra vez un poco a Bad Lieutenant. Y me gustaría saber específicamente ya dentro del rodaje cómo fue trabajar con Abel Ferrara en esas escenas en las que usted está al límite pues, de la euforia. Muchas gracias.
Well, you know, this conference is to go on way past the time you want it to go on. Abel Ferrara, I'm sure you know his work, and he's one of the extraordinary ones I met. And the work we did on his movie, The Bad Lieutenant, was another one of those journeys I was lucky to go on. Except for the tragedy that was Zoe Lund. But his movie, the best compliment I had about that movie was from a few people who said to me it was the best anti-drug movie they had ever seen. And then I knew we had made the right movie. He's a brilliant man. I knew I'd like him when I first met him because I had seen that he had adopted, he and his wife at that time. Well, I'm going back now. Just before we made The Bad Lieutenant. He and his wife had adopted 2 children from India, sight unseen, and raised them. My daughter used to play with them. I said, that's something to do. Sight unseen from the orphanage, 2 different orphanages. So I admired him for that, and he turned out to be that kind of a man, despite everything else, and in spite of everything else. Okay.
Bueno, vamos a tener tiempo para 2 preguntas más, por favor.
Bonjour Monsieur Keitel. Nous venons de France en partie pour être à Cartagena et dans ce merveilleux pays qu'est la Colombie, et aussi parce que vous êtes là.
Perdón, ¿está hablando en francés?
Sí, sí.
No, no, por favor, en español o en inglés.
Yo voy a traducir.
Ah.
No hay problema. Venimos de Montpellier, Francia, del sur de Francia, y bueno, quería saludar a Cartagena especialmente.
Hello Mr. Keitel. Quels sont les acteurs étrangers que vous préférez et avez-vous un acteur français que vous aimez particulièrement?
¿Cuáles son sus actores preferidos en el mundo y quizás especialmente en Francia?
Are you trying to get me killed? I mean, I think we can leave it at that. Well, you know, it just so happens that I was just speaking to Wes Anderson about La Talente. You know that film? Yeah. So we're aware of the great French directors and actors. Michel, what's his last name? Michel, what's his last name? No, he was, but what is the name of the actor in La Talente? And Boudot Learns to Swim. Same actor, Michel. Okay, anyway, he's great.
I'm sorry, Michel Piccoli, perhaps?
No, it's okay.
Michel Piccoli? No?
No, who's a
No,
wonderful actor. I'm speaking about these films made by Renoir and...
Jean Gabin?
No. His name is Michel. Well, Jean Gabin is a great actor, but Michel something. Anyway, I don't want to go into the history of French film. I'm not qualified to, but okay. Yeah.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Una pregunta de pronto difícil, pero igual me interesa. Usted dijo que no podemos dejar el cine a los políticos, pero al mismo tiempo también dijo que le gustó la presencia del presidente en la apertura del festival. Entonces me gustaría saber su opinión personal como artista, ¿dónde está la barrera entre el cine y la política?
There is no line to draw. There's something to cross over to, some kind of substantive thing to cross over, where politics meets the theater, the desires of the people, and greed is wiped from the planet, and only good remains. So, your president, to show an act of leadership like that, to speak about the value, the worth of theater, art, that it holds for the Colombian people, I think takes courage. There's a crossover. I'd rather say cross over the street. And they meet. It takes an act like that to say this is worth something. Let's look at it. Let's talk about it. Let's see if how it makes us feel. And see if we can come to be more tolerant of each other. And dance around fires and worship whatever God you want to worship. Gracias.
Bueno, yo de verdad lo siento muchísimo, pero ya estamos 20 minutos tarde. Le vamos a agradecer a Harvey Keitel. Recordarles que estamos mostrando sus películas
estudiantes, pero de años pasados.
¿Listo? ¿Qué quieres que te vaya ayudando?
Voy a dejarlo al país.
Carlos. Ya te cambiamos los más. Vámonos para acá, mejor. Vamos a esto, trabajando.